Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm David.
And this is the Practical Guitarist Podcast.
The podcast for people who eat, sleep, and breathe guitar. The Practical Guitarist Podcast is brought to you by Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Great Lakes Guitar Pickups provides fantasy tones at prices a practical guitarist will love. Featuring top-notch construction, attention to detail, and a fully custom product, if you can dream it, Great Lakes Guitar Pickups can probably build it. Follow them on Facebook at facebook.com/Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Are you a regular listener? Why not? David here reminding you of all the ways you can participate in the Practical Guitarist Podcast. Subscribe using your chosen podcast app. Review us on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or Google Play. Find our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Practical Guitarist or on Twitter as @PractGuitarist. Support the show. Merchandise is available in our Threadless store at practicalguitaristpodcast.threadless.com. And donate to us via Patreon, available at patreon.com/practicalguitarist. Reach out to us directly via email at questions@practicalguitarist.com. Hi, Jim.
Hi, David.
So you missed my text, huh?
I did. What time did you send it? I don't even know when you sent it.
It was like 6 o'clock. No big deal.
Was it really? Oh
yeah. God. So as we record this, it's 7:15 Central Time, and I sent him a text at like 6 saying that we were recording at 6:30. So this is okay. It took me an extra 10 minutes. I had to set everything up because I was recording, but which is why my Phantom Power wasn't on.
That's what it was. Phantom Power.
So, how about that Clegane Bowl? That's going to be tonight, right? That's going to happen tonight.
I know, and I can't watch it tonight. You know,
I can't wait. That's why I'm glad we're podcasting early because I'm going directly from this episode to sit on my couch.
I'm going to sit down and watch it. I'm sorry to all my friends who don't listen to this podcast anyway because they're not guitar players that come over. I am going to watch it tonight, and then I will watch it again with them, and possibly have to watch it 2 more times this week because one friend might come over, but the other one's sick right now, and he doesn't want to come over when he's sick.
Yeah. So, what's new in the guitar avenue right now?
All right, so I wanted to talk about something that is finally, I'm hoping, done with being clickbait because I want to talk about what Gibson has done. So, the changes that they've made.
Yeah. So the Gibson stuff in general, right? Because like Anderton's did a video, I want to say a couple days ago, but it might have been longer than that, where they were talking about the 2019 line.
Yeah, they've done 5 videos.
Yeah, they're going to do each of the models and then all the smaller guitars and like basic. And I wonder if there's been some money changed hands there, or if it's just to pad Anderton's own pockets on that. I mean, the gist of it is essentially this, right? That Gibson listened to their customers and they said, okay, so finally going to make the Les Paul standard, like the basic model Les Paul that you get with, binding, the basic real model Les Paul you get.
Which is the traditional.
Right. Well, so I don't know. I mean, the traditional is supposed to be that, but even the traditional it wasn't exactly what people were looking for. So like they've gone to the insane details of like making sure that the binding is the right thickness, and making sure that I mean it's just some of the stuff is just superfluous and like I think it's a little overkill. But there are a couple things I really like. Number one, they don't have circuit boards anymore.
Right. They went to the wiring and going directly to the pots.
Thank God. The circuit board whole thing is like I don't know what possessed them to think that they were going to change the industry by using circuit boards. Okay, so I want to talk about positives, but I also want to talk about some of the things that are being forgotten. So obviously the positive is they've gone away from the circuit board, at least in the Les Paul Standard. I don't know about the modern series because I haven't seen them open one of those up. Although I know that the Andertons did a video on it. And pretty much what the modern was what the standard was. Okay, so they took the modern, and instead of having that high performance thing, they said, okay, here's the modern, and that's got your push-pull, and that's got your dip switches, and that's got all your... I want to point out that they didn't go overboard on that either. they didn't. I correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't looked at the spec exactly one, but I know that they left out certain features that people really liked. Not really. I'm being facetious, of course. That people really liked in the 2018s and earlier.
That's right.
Like robot tuners, right?
Robot tuners are gone. They're gone forever.
What about what about the nut? That there's the zero fret nut.
Zero fret nut's gone. But they have kept some of the features that I liked about it, and that's the
belly cut,
the nerve, the belly cut, the curve of the neck. They've changed the way that the neck meets the body.
So wait, the Les Paul Modern is a modern Les Paul? Who would have thought?
Who'd have thunk it, right? Who'd have thunk it? And who'd have thunk that the standard should have been standard the whole time?
They didn't try to hide it behind. This is what I appreciate. They didn't try to hide it behind marketing BS names.
Right. And the other thing is now the as of this release, now there were 2019s that are before this, because I'm going to go into that here in a minute. But there were 2019s that came before this, right? There was a 2019 line that had the standards that were still like the other standards, the 2018 standards, the 2017, where they had all the crap in it. That they removed. What it is the new one as of 2019. And this is what's important. This is the thing to remember. The standard is now the standard. There's no year. You get a 50s or you get a 60s. Right. You get P90s, Burstbucker 2s, or Burstbucker 3s, whatever they are. Mm-hmm. So you get a thinner neck, hotter Burstbuckers, weaker Burstbuckers, thicker neck, or P90s, thicker neck. That's it. Mm-hmm. It's nice and easy. Obviously, I think that they will probably come out with a 60s with the. I don't know if they will be in that line, but there's a possibility they'll put some P90s and some 60s ones. But for the most part, that's where you are. So then you got a lot of things. What a lot of people are forgetting.
Down the finish types, like
they did.
But the 50s model only comes in gold top.
One of them only comes in gold top. The P90 one.
That's the 50s.
That's it.
Yep.
There's a second 50s that comes in a couple of colors, and that's a gold top and a T.
The T burst or whatever.
T burst, and then you've got the 60s ones only comes in 3 colors. So you're done, and it isn't like blueberry burst or orange berry Fruit Loop.
And
it's a standard. You don't have Cheerios and peanut butter Captain Crunch colors. You have real colors. So, and they aren't going to be year model anymore. So you'll have a serial number that you'll be able to track to a year, but they're not going to change them every like next year. Next year we're going to put these pickups in. Next year we're going to put these pickups in. Next year.
Do you know what I love?
Yeah.
They only offer one SG without a pick guard.
Integrate?
Yep. The SG Modern, and it's only available in 2 finishes, which means you're not going to get these shoved down your throat.
That's right.
Which is what I hate. So because I'm an SG guy, like if I was going to buy another Gibson, I would probably not buy an SG. My days of buying Gibsons are probably done, to be honest with you. Right. And I can get into that.
But if you were to buy a Gibson,
if I was to buy a Gibson, I gravitate towards the sound of the SG. Mm-hmm. I own an SG right now. I'm probably not going to keep it for any length of time. But I'm looking over here. So they have the one that's the SG Modern. That's no pick guard. Okay. They have 2 other in the Modern series that are SGs, which is a standard and tribute. Did they get away with did they do away with the fadeds? Are they calling them tributes now?
Yeah, tributes. No more fadeds.
That I didn't realize.
It was like there's a tribute and there's a faded and there's a classic and there's a
this SG standard price is not ridiculous. It's significantly more expensive than I had anticipated, but it's a Modern, right? Mm-hmm. And it's $1,500.
Yeah,
and that's the price on their website. So who knows what they're actually going to go for at dealers? I imagine it's probably the price at dealers.
It's pretty close. So the one that is not Modern is how much?
The standard 61. Yep. It's a 61, so it's more expensive. It's $1,800.
Okay, yeah.
Because it has the old style neck joint, and then if you want it with the vibrola, it's an extra $200.
Right. So I think that Gibson's going down a correct path. If you look up the new standard is coming in at what, $2,400?
I mean, I personally, I still think the SG should be around $1,200, but
I do too. I'm thinking that the SG shouldn't, because it just doesn't have the retail sale or the resale value.
Well, the problem is it's got a lot of compromises in the design. That's and that's been the issue with it from the beginning, is that like where they put the strap pin and all that kind of stuff, like that makes that guitar less desirable because it's not as functional. So that's my big gripe with mine. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah. You got to put the strap on backwards.
And it pokes you in the gut, and like everything else, it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah. When you look at guitar players as a whole, some of us have a little bit of weight in that.
Well, it's fine if you only play it like once in a while, because I got along with it for like a year before I even realized like that was going to be an issue for me. And it was not like a honeymoon period. It was just that I wasn't playing the guitar daily. And when I started to like have to strap it on every time I played it and then play it daily, like I realized, man, like I love the sound of the guitar. I had Nick make me a set of pickups for it. And honestly, I feel like I got my rental money out of it, but I'm ready to move on. Yeah.
Well, you got it for a decent price too, didn't you?
I got it for $800 new.
Yeah, I was going to say, so that you could sell that easily.
Yeah, I'll probably get 8 or 9 out of it. I mean, that's what I figure. So
yeah, so you'll be fine. You're going to break even on that. You're never going to break a sweat on that one. And yours is a decent shape. You take good care.
It's in great shape actually. I think there's like one tiny ding at the headstock.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep. That's it. Take $300 off. No. So
yeah. Good luck. Let me know how it goes for you.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say is the thing that that's a lot of good stuff. Here's the thing that I want to say about people. They're fickle and they really don't know what they want.
No, they don't.
The truth is, if I see this on guitar podcasts and YouTube channels and everything else, if you only did this, I'd buy that guitar in an instant. They do that and they don't sell them. I think it was Bob Taylor who was talking about, people were like, "Oh, we'd love to buy your electric guitars."
Talked about it.
Yeah, and then he's like, "I did electric guitars, and you didn't buy them. Mm-hmm. So don't tell me you're going to buy them when you didn't buy them. You're full of my." At least he's realistic about it, and Paul Reed's the same way. So I guess that what I'm saying is, are people really looking for Gibson to go down this extremely basic route? And I'm not talking about the colors. I think removing SKUs is a great idea. But do they really want the standard to be a standard? And are they really willing to pay the price of a standard at standard prices?
Well, honestly, I think the prices went down, number one.
It did because the features went down.
A lot. And they're not making as many, so they don't have to have as much tooling and like different sprays and all that. So their equipment costs and probably their labor costs also went down too. Anytime you have to switch things online, like it costs money. But with regards to your suggestion that, maybe this is not really what people want, I think right now Gibson has to do this regardless, not just to deal with the customer base, but because for Gibson, they are not the preferred guitar company right now. Most people who are going into guitar stores and buying things are buying Squier Classic vibes and on up into the Fender range. The popular guitars right now are like the mid-tier to upper-tier Fenders and some of your crazy boutique metal stuff, and really like Gibson, and we talked about Ibanez last week, are kind of left in lurch on this. But Gibson's been through this before. This isn't the first time this has happened to them. And what they did the last time is they tried for a number of years to do innovative stuff, which is what Gibson has tried to do the last couple of years. And that didn't work. So then what did they do? They went back to basics. And that's what they should be doing, is going back to basics and saying, look, if we can't sell a bunch, a million or a zillion guitars with Floyd Roses and crap on them, then we shouldn't do that, and so, okay, I'm okay with this. A couple of things I'd like to see Gibson figure out is I would like to see them do one guitar that kind of is like squarely planted in the realm of like Fender kind of players. And I'm not saying like they need to make a Strat or something like that, but actually they have a guitar in their lineup that I think if they did a comfort contour on it and they did some interesting things to it, they could probably make it go of it. And that's the Firebird. A lot of Fender players like Firebirds.
Yeah.
So for them, like they should capitalize on it. They should make a Firebird modern, put a belly cut on it, and put some sort of arm contour, because that's the biggest gripe area with that guitar, and they'll probably sell really well.
So I'm looking at the Gibson Original Series, which is what they're kind of calling this original collection. Sorry, on Gibson site, the SG standard is now $17.99. The 61 SG standard is $17.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
The modern is $14.99.
Right.
Difference is the pick guard and the neck joint construction.
Right. And so I'm looking down at the Explorer. The Explorer is $1,700. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The Firebird's $2,000. I'm not sure if they're using the banjo tuners anymore or whatever, but the truth is that this is a great time for Gibson. The question that most people are going after here is this. Oh, by the way, you can get a Les Paul Classic, which is the not modern version, pretty much of the. It's got all those accoutrements, the push pulls, and all this other stuff. I don't know why they call it a classic, but let's just call it by what it is. That's got all the push pulls and stuff for under $2,000. That is a huge thing that people asked for Gibson, is to get these price points down. You are under $2,000. I mean, barely. You're $1 under $2,000, but you're under $2,000 for a Les Paul Classic.
Yeah, and they did what they should have done, which is it's got crappier pickups in it, which is fine. You're going to change them out anyway. Most people do. Yeah. It's got the cheaper 61R and 61T rebranded to Burstbuckers, which used to not be Burstbuckers. And then it has it's not fancy. It doesn't have a flame top or anything.
Yeah.
It's just a regular plain maple top with binding and the whole schmear.
That's right.
And uncovered pickups.
It's pretty much a studio with binding, which finally, that's what they did.
We've been asking for a long time, even on this show.
Right. I mean, the studio now doesn't have the binding. I mean, that was what was increasing the cost of the studios. The studios were creeping up upwards of $2,000.
I still think the studio is too expensive for what it is. I think the studio line should be moved to offshore.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that they really should move the studio line.
I know people would like poo-poo that and go, Gibson's always been made in the States, but listen, Fender's done it already. Like, they blurred the lines. You can't even tell what they're making and where it comes from now.
That's right. The difference between the Mexican standards and the Mexican made Fenders and the others, we've talked about this before, is so blurred that, in all honesty, it's kind of like some of the SE models, as we've talked about before with Paul Reed Smith. There's a blurred line now, and they're really, really good. The Tribute being the Les Paul Tribute being $11.99. I think that's, this stuff is definitely moving in the right direction. The new,
that's the one I'm saying would be prime target for the studio.
That's correct. That should be
those guitars seem like a lot of overlap.
I was just going to say, in all reality, really the only things that go into it, I think that the difference between a Tribute and a Les Paul Studios, the Studios still come with all that push-pull stuff.
Yeah, and it's not really necessary.
That's not what a studio is all about. The whole idea of the studio was that was the guitar you were supposed to be able to literally drag around.
You just didn't care what it looked like because it was just for the sound.
That's right. It was your stage guitar. You're not your stage guitar, your studio guitar. Mm-hmm. What the bell looks. I think that the new double cut DCs, the special Tribute and the junior Tribute, great idea.
I do like the black Flying V.
Yeah, and the black Flying V is awesome.
I don't see in the modern V anywhere. That monstrosity, the Starfleet logo.
I can't believe that they got rid of that. I mean, what is Captain Picard?
Do you remember when I said that and we got hate mail for it?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's the ugliest guitar on earth. And I literally had people coming out of the woodwork to be like, what? Like, you don't like it? No, I don't. It does not look like a Gibson.
No. And if you notice, the Flying V B2 and the Explorer B2 are nice and simple. They're black.
Yep.
One finish, one thing.
Right. Which is all they need to do. And then if they really want to capitalize on this, make different colors each year.
Right.
Don't make them all the same year. If you want a red one, you're only going to get that in 2021. And you know what? They could publish that ahead of time.
And then you don't have to discount it at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The truth is, the red ones are only you're going to sell the red ones, and you'll sell them to whoever wants red. And then later, somebody's going to go, I wish I had a red V. Oh, you can only get that in 2020.
They got them now. And it's like, oh no, wait, they got them this year. Like,
yeah. And I think they're doing the right thing. So I want to touch on one last thing, and it was something that I'm kind of stealing the idea from another podcast thing, but you've still got to think about quality. Has the question comes up, is the quality there?
Not until we get our hands on them, we can't say.
Right, and they're hard to find right now.
Yeah, they're selling pretty quick. Oh, I think this is going to be a big year for Gibson. I think the collectors are coming out of the woodwork. It's the first post JC year, or the Henry Juskowitz year era, and I think people are going to be coming out of the woodwork to buy this era of Les Pauls and stuff. But I mean, next year, I think the line will continue kind of more in this avenue. They might have one or two extra models that they add. But I look for them to continue this. I don't think their sales are going to plummet because of this. I think this is going to help them stabilize.
Now, that goes to the other side of it. Will they stick to this at least for 3 to 5 years? You got to.
I think they will. But you know what else I think they're going to do, Jim? I think they're going to resurrect Kramer.
There was talk of that, yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because Gibson guitar brands, for them to prosper in the market that's on right now, they need a brand like Kramer that has some sort like a little bit of vintage appeal to it. Because I growing up, of course I've only been playing for about 20 years, but in the early 2000s when I started out, I remember looking around and saying, wow, Kramers are really cool.
You know how they could really resurrect Kramer?
Buy them,
Yeah. You know how they could really resurrect Kramer? Get back to that hockey stick headstock.
That's what I'm saying, man. I want to see some bananas.
Yeah, get those banana headstocks, hockey stick headstocks, whatever you want to call them. Get those things back out.
Go right after Charvel.
Yeah, go right in their face.
Actually, you know what? Grover Jackson, maybe get him to consult. Have him come in and
he could do it.
Yeah, I mean,
he's out of Jackson now. He's been out of there for a while.
He's building Freeman guitars right now.
Yeah. I think if I bought, I'm seriously looking at the Les Paul Standard 50s, the P90.
See, I don't. It just doesn't do anything for me. They're cool. Like I could totally see you rocking one. Mm-hmm. But I'm over that whole like vintage vibe thing. And I know Nick is going to give me so much crap at Gearfest for that. But
that's right. He's got that 50s freaking Junior.
That thing is incredible. I'm not going to say like they don't all like, I don't think they're cool. They don't really like for what I do. They're not really going to fit my music. So what are you showing me?
Did you see that?
Yeah. It just arrived.
Yeah, it just said arrived. Well, that means that it's coming pretty soon. It's like 23 minutes.
Yeah, 23 minutes.
So, all right. Yeah, for me, there's absolutely no question. I'm excited. I've never been excited about a P90 guitar and now I'm kind of excited about it.
Yeah, Jim, because now you know the single coil thing. Like you've exposed yourself enough to it and you've lived with it long enough that you're like, you know what? There's something to this.
Yeah. So that might be my triple threat right there. 1, 2, 3.
Let's talk about that for a second. So you come from a humbucker background.
I do.
And it's funny because we're literally flipping sides.
Decades
right
of humbucker.
As we speak, right? Because I'm typically a single coil guy, and I'm going into the humbucker territory. I'm like stepping into that thing, and I'm really liking it. But so what have you learned from using single coils? First off, because I got some tips I can share with you, but more or less so I can share with the listenership. some things you might have already noticed.
You know that I'm a volume rider, right?
Right.
So, but in the humbucker world, it's really, I mean, it's hugely important.
Yeah.
A lot more use of it than in the single. I'm finding in the single coil world, but I'm finding that maxed out. I'm not crazy about this. Believe it or not, I back off on it a little bit.
Yep, because you don't want all the treble.
Yep, I actually bleed off the
treble. No treble bleed on those guitars.
Nope, I don't want a treble. I'm backing them off.
I know people who remove treble bleeds on single coils because of that. Yeah, which I'm surprised at because there are some people that want that. They want it all the way. They want to be able to turn the volume and the treble doesn't bleed. I'm the exact opposite. The other thing is people play with the tone cap to make their tone control very usable. So that's something you might want to consider.
I've been doing that. I'm also finding that I've got a little bit of range in my jive pedals that I didn't have before.
Because you're not always just bludgeoning them.
Right. It's not a bad thing. I hope folks don't think that I'm saying that that's a bad thing. It's just for some of the sounds like, all right, so take, I know that people are going to go, oh, the guitar tone in that song is stupid, but Bruno Mars is Locked Out of Heaven because it has a very 70s funk style guitar.
You ain't going to get that kind of wah-wah stuff like any of that 70s stuff out of humbuckers, which is what when you were saying you were doing that kind of stuff before, I'm like, how are you doing that? Like, because I'm like, there's no way in hell.
Yeah, it wasn't as convincing.
No, sure. I mean, you can get away with it, like everybody does, but so the most important thing, at least to me, when playing with single coils, is picking the right amp.
Yeah,
and you've also probably noticed that single coils, the bass is like really loose.
Yes,
it's wide, and it's not typically actually that hot in the signal path. Like usually it's pretty restrained, but it's wide, and because of that, you really need to have an amp that can handle it. I like amps that have a big bottom end, but my problem with them always is that I end up overdriving the bass, like really bad, and it starts flubbing out really early.
That's what I was going to say. It gets farty.
Yeah, and that's the biggest challenge. I've had amps where if I play a low G, the amp will vibrate to the point where like you'll hear static because the tubes are rattling, or the paper cones, the speaker can't handle it, or whatever. Like you just sit there and you go, well, I guess that amp's not going to work with this guitar. There's really nothing else you could do about it. I will say I've had really good success with Fender amps, with Fender guitars, with Fender single coil pickups. It's not so much a problem with P90s in the same way, but it is a problem with P90s because P90s are loud as hell. And so what happens is you get the same flubbiness going on, and it's loud. So it's really easy to get like some nasty distortion. But if that's what you're going for, like, then that's the way to do it. You know what I mean? I personally am not into that sound. And as I go more deeper down the path of playing the music I'm playing right now, I'm getting less and less into those, like, really, I want to say kind of just abrasive sounds. And so my experience with humbuckers has been like, it's been very similar to yours with single coils, in that I've learned some things very quickly. But like I've had humbuckers before, and I've lived with them for a long time. I actually preferred humbucking pickups for a super long time. But the reason why I went back to single coils was because I was playing a specific style of music that really called for having that glassiness and that cut that you get out of them. And so I just abandoned ship, and I said, no more humbuckers for the time being. Now I'm kind of like going back and realizing that there are so many different types of humbuckers. If you're not after a P90 sound, or not P90, but PAF sound, you're going to find some really cool stuff. And I'm using the Kiesel lithium pickups in my Kiesel, and like they're the strangest sounding humbucker I've ever heard in my life. They got a lot of treble, and they have a thinness to them that's very single coil like, but it's not single coil at all. You don't get any of the flubby bass. You don't get any of the, like, the abrasiveness.
Yep.
When you're running through drives and stuff. So it's cool. I like them. But they're definitely not anything like what's in my SG or what's in the Shengzai. Like they're very much modern, super high output. Make sure you're using the pad in your Helix kind of pickups.
Yeah.
I mean, now you're getting to the point where like people used to buy active pickups, to get all the distortion, and now you're getting to the point where the passive pickups are almost as hot, if not hotter, in some cases.
Right.
I know Bare Knuckles make a single coil that's like 20K or something. 20K. I mean, can you imagine? Why don't I just punish my amplifier?
Oh, I know. It's incredible. I can't. What do I want to say here? I can't even fathom wanting to put that much punch. But I mean, so the whole EMG thing, as we're talking about pickups that push or don't push the amplifier as much. The EMGs, I think what people forget when they get AMGs, they're looking for that almost what it was, a Zach Wild, right?
Yeah.
A lot,
he's still a big EMG guy.
Right. And the thing is that for me at least, when I think about EMGs, I like them, but turned way down. And then
you like the low noise properties.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like I would like to see more guitars with just a preamp and passive pickups.
Right.
That you can kill the noise.
Yep.
Because if you only have like 6 inches of wire running to the preamp, and then the preamp kills all the noise.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Exactly.
Exactly.
I mean, you have so much more control of your tone.
Well, it will load down your pickups. Like they won't react exactly the same way. It would be there would be a learning curve. It's the same way that EMGs like seem to over compress everything, every pick attack and all that. I think EMGs are another pickup that's kind of like the Joe Bardens in that they tell on you, like because EMGs are extremely sensitive, and it's really hard to cheat with them. Whereas my Kiesel pickups, like I can cheat with those. I can get by with things that I shouldn't be able to, and pick rakes and things like that where you can muddle notes together and nobody notices. But I don't. That's another thing. Like I always frowned on humbuckers because I like fuzz faces, and I found that the Kiesel actually sounds pretty cool with my sun face. So, and that's through the Katana, no less. I'm looking over at my little 1x12 stack here, and I got the Katana on top of a Mesa Boogie cab. And I'll tell you what, man, it doesn't sound that bad when you have a good cab.
Right.
It's not like I know people poo-poo it all the time, but it's really not that bad. Like it does a passable Marshall thing. Did you see the Andertons video where they did the sound like Eddie Van Halen?
Yeah.
Okay. So they did this. I'm going to update our listeners. They did this video, and they're like, we're going to do a sound like Eddie Van Halen. If you're not familiar with the series, it's like Rabia and one of the other guys, and they do they pick out budget rigs that sound like other players. And they've done all kinds of people, but they'd never done Van Halen until recently. So they did Van Halen. And they got you think they would get like a 5150, right? But they can't because it's over budget. So what they ended up picking was a Fender bass breaker, the 30-watt bass breaker. And it sounded pretty much like the Brown sound, but I was laughing because they were saying, well, we almost picked the Katana, but we didn't want to deal with all the people complaining because the Katana can do that sound. It could do that sound really, really well, but it doesn't really do everything great. You know what I mean? So I get it. If you're after that sound, maybe. The other cool thing about the Katana that I found out today, I've been looking at different modelers, and I've been kind of like mulling over the idea of maybe selling my Helix and getting an XFX 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'm broke. I don't know how that's going to happen. I will be honest. I have $2 in my gear fund. That's probably going to have to last me for a while.
It's got to last all the way to GearFest.
Well, no, GearFest. So I have money for GearFest, but it's already accounted for. But I forgot. I do have a topic for the end of the show. We'll get to it in a second. So, yeah, I was looking at the XFX 3. I was looking at the Kemper.
So far, if I was going to switch, I think the Kemper economically makes the most sense because it's got a built-in amp. If you don't buy the just preamp model, it's like $200 more or something for the one with the amp in it. It's like, why would you bother?
Exactly. Why not?
Yeah, unless you already have like a Matrix or something power amp, like it just buy the power amp one.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I was looking at the Boss GT1000 as well. So the GT1000 has settings in it for output, and it has different output modes, and it has output modes for the Katana. And I'm not meaning just one of the Katanas, the whole line. Katana input, Katana 100-watt input, Katana head input, Katana head return. Like, so you can pick which one you want to use, and it's supposed to shape the output so it's more neutral for using the Katana head. I think that's kind of cool. Like, I wish more manufacturers would do things like that when they bring out these modeling devices. Like Line 6 should have, they used to have output modes, but they should have an output mode like neutral, or output mode, for like the Boss speaker, the Bose speakers, or their own PA speakers, or whatever, like to boost adoption. It's fairly trivial to look at a speaker curve and test a PA speaker and then just say, okay, so here's our PA speaker unit, so I think that'd be kind of cool for the next Explorer. I had a piece of news this week. So I've been doing the podcast in Cubase, and it's been hit or miss. I've had a couple issues. I had one last week where we posted an incomplete episode because it only exported the region that was selected, which was weird. It's a problem I've dealt with in Logic too, but Logic handles it differently, and so it's not as big an issue there. But what I noticed was my trial was getting closer to expiration. Well, they had their 30th anniversary sale. And I don't know if it's still going on or not, but you can get Cubase for an insanely low price. I think you can get artists for $55 or something. Like, it's just nuts. So I bought Cubase Pro, and I got the cross-grade license because I had Logic. So I was able to prove that I had Logic. And I got the cross-grade for $166.
Yep, $166
for a $570 piece of software or whatever it is. I got it for $166.
Wow.
Now, this is where it gets fun, right? So I order it from Sweetwater. My Sweetwater rep is Brant Miller. If anybody has a Sweetwater rep, he's great. He sent me a message in the morning. He says, there's a problem with your order. He's like, I'll contact you later today. We'll deal with it. I'm like, okay, whatever. I figure, it's probably verification because I bought a cross grade. They want to make sure that I'm eligible for the cross grade. So, lo and behold, I wait a couple hours, and then I sent him an email, and I said, yeah, just so you know, here's my proof of purchase because I figure it's probably for the cross grade. Well, he comes back and he says, yeah, he's like, and that works, so here's your license key. I put in my license key on the website where Sweetwater tells me to, no less. And it says, this license key is invalid. Actually, what it says is kein AC, because they're German. And I'm going, what the hell is that supposed to mean? So I go to Google Translate, and it basically means like bad code or something like that. Right. I'm like, what? All right. So I sent an email back to Brant, and Brant misunderstands and thinks that I need instructions. And I said, no, I know what I'm doing. I sent him a screenshot of the error message. Then I go into, so this is where it gets fun, right? So if you guys know Steinberg, they have a copy protection scheme that requires a dongle.
Such a pain in the ass. Yeah.
They have a dongle, right? Their dongle costs money.
Yep.
It's $30, and you have to have it for Cubase Pro.
What version of? Oh,
for Cubase Pro.
So you gotta get a dongle too.
Yes, in addition.
Because I was gonna say I have Cubase.
Mm-hmm.
I have Cubase 9. I wonder if I can cross.
Is it like AI or whatever, or is it like the cheap edition? Because I don't think the cheap edition is the same.
Yeah, I don't know.
When you get into the really expensive ones like Pro, like it costs you have to pony up for the license key. It's required. But anyway, I didn't know that when I bought it, which is fine. Like I'm frustrated because I think their copy protection is completely archaic. But we'll get to that. That's coming up. So then I get on the horn with Cubase directly, right? So their chat line on their website takes you to Yamaha because they're owned by Yamaha, if you didn't know that. And so the guy says, your license code, he asks me for a license code, show it to him. He says, your license code is valid. He says, our license servers are down because of the sale, right? There's so many people trying to activate that they crash the licensing server. So he tells me it's going to be 20. He gives me a very exact number. He says it will be 25 hours and then it will be up. That was on Friday. They're not up today. Okay, so I'm assuming he meant 25 hours business days.
Yeah.
So probably sometime Monday they'll be up. But here's what pissed me off. So he gave me a temporary code so I could activate my software, which works fine, by the way. Because I don't have to enter it into my account. I just put it on my license key. But it's only got a 25-hour expiration or 24-hour expiration. So it's like, well, you mean I'm going to have to, on Monday, to mix this episode, I'm going to have to send them a request for another damn license key? Because they haven't gotten the licensing server fixed? Are you effing kidding me? Like, for real? And this is because their copy protection sucks. It's not for any good reason. It's because they're, like, in the Stone Age. So let me break it down for you. Reaper, right? Reaper's not pretty to look at, but you can go buy Reaper for $69 and get every feature that's in that piece of software. I can go Mac, I can buy Logic for $200 and get every piece plus updates for that software. I can go and buy Waveform from Waveform Traction, which I was using for a while. You can buy that for like $200. I think you can get that license for $100. Now, if you want to get plugins and stuff to go with it, so you can make it work better, it's like $200, right? It's not terribly expensive. If you look at, let's see what Studio One costs. Studio One is from PreSonus. That's their dedicated software suite. And if I was to buy Studio One, I'm on their website right now, looking for the buy now button. Here we go, buy now. How much is the license to Studio One? Okay, so Studio One Professional is $400. Studio One Artist, which is probably what most people would need, is $99. Studio One Prime is free. So put it in perspective. Cubase is charging, let me get the actual number. So Cubase Pro for without an update is $200. Well, $276, $290 if you get the box. No, but that's with the sale. Right. It is normally $552. Yeah. What are you getting in Cubase Pro 10 that you're not getting in these other softwares? Not shit. Well, I imagine that's why they dropped the price. No, they dropped the price for the 30th anniversary sale. It's going to go right back up to $552. No, it's $580 for the other. Yeah, because Cubase thinks they are somehow special, right? They honestly think their software's great. And I know people who use this software regularly, and it's not great. It's okay. It works. But I'm only getting it because I'm familiar with it. Like, I've used it before. Right. I don't feel like you're getting your money's worth. But on top of that, you pay $500. Let's say you buy it at full retail, right? You buy in the first time. $550. $30 for the stupid Steinberg key. And then they tell you, oh, you can't even activate your software because our licensing server's down. So we're going to give you a temporary key. Like, what is going on over there? Now, I didn't pay that much money, but that doesn't exempt them from the fact that, like, I've got a product I can't even use. Yeah, I'm looking at it. So even with the boxed version, I figured that the box would come with the key in it. No, you have to pay extra for that. No, you got to buy the key. And there's a reason for that. So the key actually can be used for other products. So if you want like Vienna strings and stuff like, there's some different libraries and things that use that key. But here's my problem with the key. No other company I know of right now is using the key anymore. Those are late 90s, early 2000s technology. The whole reason for the key is so that you can move your license from computer to computer. That was the idea behind it. I have Adobe, right? We all know how bad Adobe is with copy protection. Like, you authorize one computer, and then if you go to install on another machine and you go to log in, it comes up with a message that says this is authorized on another computer. That computer will be deauthorized. Like, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And I remember when they were still doing box software, and I had to call in and tell them, hey, that other computer took a dump. Like, I have to reinstall.
Right.
You know, look, that's a much better scenario than this. To be able to have to call in and have a computer deactivated is better than this.
Yeah,
get rid of the dongle. I don't need to use a USB port on my computer that's valuable for what I do. So I can use the software?
That's exactly why they got rid of the frickin' things. Is that I did not use the F word, by the way. There was
he almost did. He almost did, though.
But that's why they got rid of the damn things. They were like, all right, you know what? We're going to have this in there. And, so I used to work for, I used to do IT for small doctor's offices, right?
They used to have dongles. Yep, I know.
Those damn dongles, right? For their software, for their medical licensing.
Yep.
And, I remember because everything went USB, everything. And you'd get a computer that would only have 2 to 4 USB ports.
And then they wouldn't have enough power to run the device you plug into them. Because they weren't running at 4.5 volts or 5 volts or whatever it's supposed to be. They were running at like 1. You're going, none of the stuff that you plug into these peripheral ports is going to run on 1 volt.
And what's funny is, so if you've ever worked in anybody who's done IT for medical stuff is familiar with the words McKesson or Epic. And those are the back end, the enterprise stuff for those folks. And anyway, just like anything else, they sell add-ons and they sell license keys. They sell, you can buy them by the 10, you can buy them by the 100, depending on the size of your hospital and or your practices. Anyway, you look into this stuff, and it's like, you'd be surprised at what's still out there that's using keys. And because they're just like Steinberg, they're in countries. I remember there was a country where we were like, they want a fax. I said, who the hell uses fax anymore? We have a fax machine. We had to go to Staples to fax stuff to a company in Korea because they didn't have, they didn't take anything but fax. They wouldn't take an emailed picture of the thing.
In some countries, they require it because the signature has to be in handwriting. Like, it can't be a digital signature.
A fax can be faked as much as anything can be faked.
Well, I know. That's my point. But it just makes it that much more ridiculous.
But so we get back to this.
Same
USB ports, anyone, we all know, anyone who has USB ports, I don't care if you got 6 or 8 on your computer now, there are towers with like 10 of them on there. Those things are gold. We're plugging in. I don't know about you. I have an ID thing. I have my camera plugged in. I have my Focusrite plugged in. I have my
man.
I don't even know what the other one is.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to literally buy a hub just for this.
Just for that, which means you have to buy that device, which is like $30, like you said. Then you're going to have to spend, because it's got to be a powered hub. Can't be a hub that can't.
And it's going to make and it's going to ultimately make my computer desk an even bigger mess. Like, thanks, Cubase. Thank you very much.
I'm going to look at somebody else.
These e-licenses are done. I'm gonna take them and I'm gonna get as many of my can off eBay. I'm gonna put a thing out and be like, send me your e-licensers for destruction, and I'm gonna film myself like smashing them with a sledgehammer. It's dumb. Like the whole thought of this is dumb. Why can't they do 2-factor? Register your phone number with them, and if they want to verify that the software is installed on the machine, send you a text message. You put your code in. What's the problem here?
Like the bank does. Like
anybody does.
Card does. Like everybody does. Google even does it to me. Hey, I logged into another computer. Is that really you? They send me an email and they send me a text.
And this isn't about. So this really isn't about software piracy anymore. And I firmly believe this. This isn't about DRM. They could do this very, very easily using any of the other methodologies you described. This is about them pretending that you're paying $30 for the convenience of being able to move your license from computer to computer as needed. That's what this is. This is an extra fee for you on top of the software you've already purchased. Like that's why they don't put it in the box, Jim. It's not because it wouldn't be convenient. They're not going to put it in the box because they want that extra $30. So you see the software price at being what it is right now. So if you buy the $160 upgrade, it's not $160. It's $190.
Yeah.
So
what do you recommend? I'm looking for a new software for stuff because I'm tired of the I've been using Ableton, but I can only go 2 channels at a time, and I can only bounce.
Version of Cubase, you'll be happy. It's good.
Wait a minute, I don't want Cubase. I don't want to go through that shit again.
You mean the dongle?
Yeah.
Honestly,
or is it only for the pro that needs a dongle?
I think I don't know what the cheapest version is called.
I mean, Artist from Sonos is only $50, and then I can boost it.
I mean, I would probably look at PreSonus too. It really depends. So, like PreSonus, if you're going to use PreSonus, my whole thing is like I would use PreSonus if I had a PreSonus interface. Like, I don't think I would really try to push it and try to run because I have a Steinberg interface right now. It's old and it's crap, and I'm going to be replacing it hopefully at GearFest. I'm already looking at alternatives. Thank you, Robert Jackson, for having a long conversation with me about different interfaces. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I would probably look to find the one that's like most compatible with your hardware, not for the compatibility side, but just like how it was designed. Because you'll find that like the feature set's really locked tightly together if you have like a PreSonus interface and then use Studio One. I don't know what Focusrite, like who they're backing as far as their I don't think it's Ableton. I think they just put a bunch of free crap in the box.
Yeah.
So like here's the thing. I tried Ableton, right? I got an Ableton trial. I installed it. I played around with it. I don't care about Ableton.
Not crazy, but no,
I don't like it at all because it's not laid out the way that any other DAW is laid out.
No, it's ridiculous. The interfaces are.
It's laid out for musicians, Jim. Didn't you know?
Really?
I have to be an engineer to use it.
I know. That's what I was going to say. I felt like
incredibly powerful. I'm not disputing that.
I couldn't figure out how to record with it, and I've been using software since the 90s.
Yeah. So Cubase used to be a big pain in the butt. Like everything had to be templatized. Back when it was like Cubase, I think it was probably 5 or Cubase. Yeah, it's probably 5 or 6, right? I had like Cubase 5, and you had to, every time I opened up a track, I create a blank file, and then I have to go in and I have to route all my inputs and outputs. Then I'd have to go in and make sure that all my VSTs were in place. Then I would have to, it was like, it just became this, dude, I spent 20 minutes setting up a session before I ever hit record. It was ridiculous. That's why I didn't make any music when I was using Cubase 5. But they figured that out. So now Cubase is like really easy, and it's fairly stable, and I'm getting low latencies. If I had a better audio interface, I'd be happier. My audio interface, here's the problem for folks listening at home. Not all audio interfaces are created equal. Yeah. Right? So you can go online and you can look. The popular one right now is UAD. The studio, their Apollo twins are really popular. They're okay. I'm not poo-pooing them. Look, they got great preamps. The Unison preamp sounds really good. The problem I have with them is that they're extremely expensive for what you get. And this whole mythology that, you need to have that special ability to run the plugins in the box. That's DRM protection, folks. There's nothing more than that. Because at this point, your PC is so much more powerful than it was 10 years ago. You don't have to worry about offloading your plugins to your box under your desk. It's just ridiculous. Now, they do have one advantage in that department. So if you're doing preamp plugins like the Neve consoles, they can control the input-output levels really well. And so there's some tighter integration there, which makes us more palatable. But still, is it worth like $600?
That's the thing. So I'm looking at Cubase Elements, right? That's the new version.
Yeah, that's the GP, right?
It's only $50 right now.
Yeah,
I bought it today.
I mean, I would say, I don't know. We can talk about it offline. That's a big conversation discussion. But so we're talking with the interface thing. I've been watching these shootouts, right? And this is what we're going to be the practical guitarist for tonight. Like really practical here. So you got an Apollo twin, and you're shooting it out with a Focusrite 2i2. All right, $299 interface.
Yep.
$800 interface. Which do you think is going to sound better? Which do you really think is going to sound better? Now, depending on who's recording it and how well they know how to use it, that's one thing unto itself. But if you get somebody who's actually an audio engineer who actually does recording for people, and they do one of these demonstrations, you can hear the difference in quality between those two interfaces.
Oh, for sure.
Now, this is what's funny. So PreSonus, I can't find any videos that like really compare those really well with the Focusrite stuff. Focusrite makes a lot of interfaces. They sell a lot of them. They're okay. They're not terrible. They're the McDonald's of interfaces right now. However, if you look closely, you can find companies like Audient. And Audient makes a pair of really inexpensive interfaces, like 1 or 2 channels.
Yep.
Sound phenomenal for the inputs. If you're looking for like the old vintage console style input, that's what you want. Don't look at the Focusrite stuff. Just go get yourself an Audient for like $300 and just be done with it. You'll be happy. I'm shopping. I don't know what I'm buying yet. But I am not buying a Cubase interface. I can tell you that right now. This one I've got under my desk. Here's the problem with it. It clips with everything. It has a high Z input on it, and if you turn high Z on, you're supposed to be able to plug a guitar into it, have the trim all the way down to the minimum, and play away, and no clipping, and you're supposed to be able to, send it directly to your amp plugins, and it's supposed to sound just like your guitar is plugged straight into an amp.
Right.
It sounds nothing like that because it clips. Every guitar I own, doesn't matter the pickup output level, it clips bad. Yep. I cannot plug the direct out of an amplifier into it because it clips. I cannot plug my Helix into it well unless I turn the volume super low and set it to line level so I can avoid that high Z switch. That was a big oversight on Steinberg's part, and this interface, because that is a mistake. I am not a fan. I've had this thing for 5 years now. It served me well, but I've always been tracking my guitars through something else because it clips. And so I'm fighting it now really bad. I'm doing a project and not happy. So there will be a new interface under my desk eventually.
The truth is,
happen.
Let's face it, Focusrite does make the higher end stuff too.
Yeah, the Clarets are on par with what you're going to get. And if you buy like the Claret 2i2 thing, they have a 2 in, 2 out. I think it's 2 in, 6 out or whatever. The Claret is on par with what you're going to get out of the UAD.
Right. And that one is $439. So really,
it's not terribly expensive.
You're doubling your price.
You don't need the DSP to run plugins directly on the Focusrite. So that's what I'm saying. Like, UAD is fine, but just understand you're paying like $500 so that you can engage in their DRM. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'd rather take that money and go get a Slate plugin subscription for a year.
Yep. Oh yeah. My thing is I will probably upgrade to a Claret, and then I would move to I'll just buy plugins for whatever.
If I was doing a full on like studio thing and I was selling my studio time out to people, which I'd like to do, but I live in a condo. It's not going to work here.
Right.
I would definitely probably be getting. I would drop a G and get one of the. I wouldn't get the Apollo. I'd go for the bigger one. I'd go for an 8 in out or 8 in 8 out or something bigger if I could.
Doesn't Apollo make an 8 in 8 out? I thought
they have bigger. They have bigger ones than that.
They're very expensive.
They have some, and if you're selling your services to people, you better have the gear, and that's the stuff you want right now because you can get those sounds like the Neve consoles and all that stuff for a reasonable approximation of it for not a lot of money.
No,
I mean if you want to buy a Neve console, you could spend $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $1 million. I mean, how much do you want to spend?
Right. It sounds like a lot of money. Well, $100,000 sounds like a lot of money until you realize what you.
Yeah, I mean, like Rupert Neve,
it's your return on investment.
Built those things specifically for the studios they were going in. It wasn't like you could have gone to your mom and pop in the '60s and been like, "Yeah, I need a Neve preamp module." They'd look at you like, what are you even talking about? Like, I don't even know what that is.
So yeah, I mean, you can probably drop maybe $2-3 grand on a decent the Apollo systems, the upper end.
Yeah, no, you can go higher than that if you want. Just depends on what you want.
No, I'm just talking about if you were starting out and you were trying to get. You know,
I mean, if I was like, because I got a bunch of microphones, right? I've got the standard stuff. I don't have the really expensive ones that you would really need to run a pro quality studio. Like I need to get a decent ribbon. That's gonna be $1,000.
Yeah, same here.
So you just gotta kind of like control your spend. If I was gonna be selling my services out, I would be aiming for a $3,000. Here's $3,000. This is what I'm gonna buy. It's gonna include a couple of nice microphones, some acoustic treatment stuff because that's more important than anything else. Probably some good monitors and about $1,200 left over for the interface.
Right.
So, yeah. It's interesting though because for guitar players, like we didn't have to worry about this stuff 20 years ago. No. Nobody was tracking guitars in their house. Like that was all. You just went to the studio and did it. And probably 30 years ago at this time.
I can remember even a little less than 20 years ago. I can remember we went to a studio, and it was a guy's barn. It was a redone barn, upstate New York. So
yeah, that's common.
Yeah, it was pretty common, and he had a separate area. He had 2 vocal booths or 3 vocal booths, and he had a isolation booths for your guitar amps and your bass amps, and your drummer had everything was set up. He had all the baffles. Really nice in that since he did it in a barn, he used the hayloft as his engineering area. So he was looking down on everybody, and he could, instead of looking out at you and kind of being at eye level, he was looking down at you from above. And it was kind of cool because you could see everybody, every booth, everything, right? And anyway, really well done, really everything. And it was expensive. We wanted to do a 3-song demo because we had a tour coming up, and I want to say it cost us to do a 3-song demo. It was about
how many hours, by the way? 2 days? Day? Like 8 hours?
Not even a full day.
Okay.
Maybe 6 hours. You're talking 3 songs. We rehearsed the out of those songs.
Yeah.
And
about $1,000.
Yep. It was about $1,500.
And the funny thing is, so you're not really paying for the equipment when you pay for studio time. Like people think you're paying for the equipment. You can go down to Sweetwater right now and you can rent the studio for a day for $1,000.
Yep.
The depending on what time of year and all that stuff, because prices fluctuate. Yeah. But hearing $1,500 means you had a decent guy running the board. Like you had an engineer who knew his stuff. And
this was a guy that had, he had Grammy, and he had, this was no slacker, but
right. Because really, $1,500 does not sound like a high bill to me. Like that sounds like, it's about what I expect. Yeah. But for somebody who's never done it before, like when you get that bill from the guy and you're like, oh, what happened? That's what it costs. I mean, if you want to track a 12-song CD, like, and let's first off, as Stephen Miller has told us, you have your parts together, number one, have your shit in order, and you go in and you're going to do it in like 2 or 3 days.
Right.
You're looking at $3,000 plus.
People complain, about this stuff, but they go in and, it depends on whether you're looking for a studio engineer, which is what we wanted. We were putting together a CD.
You were really looking for production because you already knew kind of what was going to be on there.
Right. All this was 3 covers, actually 2 covers and an original. And an original we had been playing for years, and it already was on another CD. So, anyway, so this was pre-done, pre-written, pre-everything music. We were going in, we were just laying down the tracks. And of course, he has to charge the day because even though you walk out 2 hours, he's got work to do. A lot of it.
He's mixing at night when you're not there. And like,
that's right. And we weren't even selling this. This was just so we could put it up on our website. Remember websites?
Yeah.
Put it up on our website. And I the MySpace page or something. And to have it there so that people could go, oh yeah, that's the tour. And there's what it sounds like. And then it was like little stills and movement of us and stuff like that, but nothing really that was a video.
Right.
So anyway, the whole thing probably wound up costing us almost $3,000 to put the website together and everything else. And half of that went into studio time. But what people forget is when you walk away, that even if you just have things engineers, they're still mix, they're still master, I mean, master is as much work anymore.
Yeah, you never want the same guy who mixed your stuff to master it either.
Right. Exactly.
And there are mastering services. You can send it away and get a song mastered for $100.
Yeah.
It's not the cost of that's not insane anymore. There was a time when that was very expensive because it was really super high end equipment. But now that everything's done in the box, like it's just plugins. Like that's pretty much it.
Yep. And mastering wasn't what it was. You aren't making a master acetate and a master this and
so that whole thing, when you're talking about making like the gold master and all that stuff like that they used to press records, typically that's actually not involved in the mastering process. That's post mastering. So they give you tape, they send it off to make the pressing. Right. Like that was never really handled by the engineer that mastered it. That was
but did the master put together the tape that was, or at least the tape set?
All the mastering engineer does is take the material and make sure that the loudness levels and the proper sheen and everything sounds cohesive. And then he puts it to 2-inch tape or whatever he's going to put it to, the medium. Right. And then he sends it off to the other people that do all the pressing and all, create the initial master vinyl that they're going to press for vinyl, or the inverted CD that they use to press CDs.
Right, but don't they make? I don't know. For some reason, I thought there's a master gets put away.
Yes, but that's not made by an individual. That's made by a company that actually produces those from the tapes. Or even going back to the 60s, everybody's been recording on magnetic tape. Probably everybody you've ever listened to has been recorded on magnetic tape.
Right.
And so the process is it gets recorded on, however many tracks, and then they dump that down to a 2-track master that gets sent off. That's not a master, but they dump it down to a 2-track mix that then gets sent off to the mastering engineer, who then sits down and he says, okay, I'm going to, add some compression. I'm going to add a little bit of room reverb to make the whole mix sound cohesive, and a little bit of compression on top of that, and I'm going to limit it. And generally, that's what they're doing. They're playing with volume levels.
Right, because you don't want the album to come out and it's like this song is really loud, this one is really low, and this one is kind of loud, and this one is
and they also do volume automation as part of that process too. But once they're done, they do the same thing. They pop out another 2 tracks of whatever on whatever media, and then that gets sent off to the people that do all the production work. And they'll make your first master, and what they do is they actually send it back to you, and you listen to it and you okay it. That's what you're thinking about. That's done by that's actually done by the production house usually.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. The only time I was involved with that was a long, long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I've never done it myself, but I know from enough people that I've talked to in like enough articles and interviews that that's how it works. Yeah. It's a crazy thing that doesn't really happen much anymore. I mean, now you send it off to master, and then the guy says, all right, here's your master. He sends you the files back, and you're posting them on iTunes in 20 minutes. I mean, it's that simple.
That's insane.
Actually, the mastering process now is not even the same thing. So, like, it used to be to prepare it for the medium it was going to go on, right? So, like, you would master for vinyl. Now you're mastering for iTunes, which basically just means you're trying to get the highest level of audio quality to pass off to iTunes.
To a WAV file, which becomes nuts. Was that an MP4?
No, I think you actually you provide them waves if you do a mastered for iTunes, and then they actually convert it.
Oh, they do the conversion. Okay, I knew somebody did the conversion.
But they have guidelines, which is really cool because there were no guidelines in the beginning for any of this stuff, so people were just submitting CD masters. And now iTunes is like, well, no, we want to actually encourage dynamic range. We want to get away from this idea of squashed audio. We don't have to do it anymore. So they're pushing for like a higher dynamic range and that kind of stuff. So
that's the same with Spotify and those guys.
Yep. They have the master bar Spotify now too. And they have mastering details. So like if you pay for one of the streaming services that like post your music to these other services, they should be able to like make some sort of edits for your music to go better on those other services.
Like DistroKid?
Yeah, I don't think DistroKid does it. But DistroKid's dirt cheap. So hopefully your mix sounds good. I know mine does. Like I've listened to my songs on iTunes and they sound pretty good. So I just don't feel like they're not doing the mastering work for you. So like you go to a master engineer, you say, I'm just going to go to iTunes and Spotify And then like you might have to pay 2 charges, but you're going to get maybe a 1% different mix that's going to be optimized for those 2 formats. So it may not even be that important to you to do that. And now the funny thing is the mastering guys, it used to be that they wanted 2 tracks, right? They wanted left and right stereo. Now they're asking for the whole like project files as stems.
Wow.
Mixed out stems. And I'm going, why? You shouldn't have any control over the mixing at all.
No way. Yeah, that's
the way of the world now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's probably how stems are getting out there where they typically wouldn't have been.
I think that's exactly what's happening. Is that when, let's say Britney Spears has a new song coming out, and she sends her stems over to the mastering engineer who works for Columbia or wherever she's at.
Yeah.
And the guy goes through it and he does it, and then he quietly pockets the he may not actually make any adjustments to the mix, but he quietly pockets
the stems.
Yeah,
because and those things are like gold.
Yeah, they are.
To a
they
musician.
really shouldn't be out in the public.
No,
I mean, in all honesty, like that has ruined some people's careers, probably hers too included. I mean, look at the leaked outtake tracks from what the one song that she did where like she's horribly out of key and clearly doesn't have any talent. Like that's what that video said, or like that video when it came onto YouTube said to me. It's like, look, what we said's true all along. It's all pitch correction.
Yep.
So anyway.
Wow. Yeah, that's too bad too. When you look at some of the other stuff that's going on too, so people are taking so more musicians are taking recordings directly off the board during live performances. And the reason they do this is because there's more and more hired guns, right? There's more solo artists. Solo artists require hired guns. So you do these things, and they're not stems, but they're kind of like that. They're tracks of their own, because now I got to hire Guitar Hero B because Guitar Hero A got sick or went on. So I got to bring this guy.
I'm going to show him the live recording so that he can cop it.
That's right. So I'm going to send him the guitar mix Am
I the only one that we're having this discussion and I think about that and I'm like, that makes me want to puke? Like, in all honesty, the reason you hire a musician is because you want them to put their sonic stamp on something. I am so tired of this egocentric crap where somebody says, hey, I'm going to make a metal record and I want everybody on this record to play exactly as I specify.
That's right.
And that's there. If you can't do it, get out. Like, that's not really the way that music's supposed to work. It's supposed to be give and take, push and pull, like communication and all that stuff. And if I think, like, when I used to seek out like weird recordings, I would seek out things like Phil Collins playing with Black Sabbath, right? I don't want him to sound like what's the guy's name? His name is
Hetfield. James Hetfield?
No. Don't let's not play these games. We're not that other podcast. Let's not do this. Where we just throw out random names. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't expect Phil Collins to sound like the drummer from Black Sabbath. You don't.
Oh, yeah.
Listening to it for that reason. You know what I mean?
Geezer Butler.
No,
not Geezer.
He's the bass player.
Bass player.
That's what gets me, though. Like this John Mayer thing, playing with the Grateful Dead.
Yep.
I don't want to see him playing like Jerry Garcia.
No, I know you don't.
No. But I would rather see him play like John Mayer.
Exactly. The problem is that there are tons of people out there that want to go see
John Mayer play Jerry Garcia songs. What in the hell?
Exactly. And what's the point? At that point, I used to say, people would say, I want to sound. Well, I played with this one guitar player. I don't know if I ever told this story, but it doesn't matter. There was this one guitar player in a cover band I was in. Everything had to be exact. And when I say exact, volume swell.
Met one of them.
And this is long before the Helix came out. I mean, we're talking the old, late 90s, early 2000s when you could buy a Zoom. There was a couple of pedals out there. So he had a pedal board. I swear to God, it was as big as this table.
Oh yeah. And it's like the Edge, right? Like they used the song of this one.
Rack gear.
He's got stuff on his pedal board that's not even in your set list. But if we have to play this song, I have it.
That's exactly right. He had 4 wah pedals.
Why?
Because he had a Crybaby, this one that had this cue, and he had this one that was from when Clapton played, because Clapton didn't use the same one as Hendrix. And then he had one that Stevie Ray Vaughan used when he did.
Why?
It's like
no one that can tell. Not even you. We're getting to the point when you have that much crap that not even you can tell the difference. You think you can, but it's all in your head.
Right. And
don't admit that guy.
He literally had like 27, 28 pedals on his board. And this is way before mini pedals were out. These things were huge.
Yeah, yeah.
And all mixed, all put together to this old switching unit.
You're like setting up and you're looking and you're like, where are you gonna put that?
Yeah. And of course he had one of these girlfriends. I can't hear my boyfriend. You need to turn him up.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this dude before on the show.
And so the guy, he was always the loudest guy in the band. There were a lot of times I just quit playing. I just turned my volume down.
Like whatever. Like just let him go for it.
But he was so perfect. He didn't care. It's like, I'm so perfect. I don't care about you guys. You don't even matter. That's right. It was the him show.
And we've all worked with people that are like that at some point in our lives where it's like, I have to take center stage. I can't understand why this music works without me. Like the David Lee Roth syndrome, right? Where this doesn't work without me. And to an extent, you might be right, but chances are it does work without you. Like,
well, that's just it.
Understand, they can replace you. You're no one is irreplaceable.
When I first joined the band, they had 2 guitar players. I was the frontman. So they had 2 guitar players. Here's what's funny. The other guitar player. So here's that guy. That's the other thing. He didn't just have a stereo rig. He had stereo wet dry. So we had a wet stereo.
3 amps. Oh, he had 4. He had a pair in the middle.
2 dry and 2 wet rig.
Oh my God.
So yeah, he wasn't just wet, dry, wet. He was wet, dry, wet, dry.
What? Why?
He had 2 of those. I don't remember, Tone Bone or somebody made this switching.
Yeah, the amp switching. Yeah. They made one of the first amp switchers that you could commercially get without having
A, B, C, D. He had this. He could go A, B, C, C, D. He could use 2 amps at a time, so he could go stereo. But it was ridiculous. Anyway, so
how long was the setup time?
Oh, he would have to get there. He would go to the club. Like we'd have an 8. Let's say we'd have an 8 or 9 p.m. start, right? Back then, I think they were usually 10, 11 o'clock. It was ridiculous. You went until 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. It was so stupid. You got home at about the time you're supposed to get up.
And then you basically get up and go to church the next day.
Yeah. I didn't get it. I didn't get to church. So he would go in the afternoon, right after work, and his rig would be set up. So we'd get there, and his amps were already in the back. Already set up.
Let me guess. Full stacks.
2 monitors. So he had 4 full stacks. He was the guy. He was that guy.
He had to rent a U-Haul truck to get his gear to the gig.
He had a Marshall JMP. He had a Marshall JCM.
Let me ask you this:
Fender reverb with an extra cabinet.
Is he this guy though? Is he the guy that like he shows up at the gig with literally everything he owns?
Yep.
And doesn't like have anything at home? Like,
I don't know. I can't imagine he had anything at home.
Because I know people like that too. It's like, well, I own it, so I'm taking it. And you're like, why? You're not even going to use it.
Well, he would believe me, he used them all. My ears were always ringing at the end of the night. The other guy who would stand on the other side of the stage next to the bass player had a Fender's Blues Junior.
Yeah. And it mic'd up, and it sounded fine.
And it was mic'd up, and it sounded just fine. He had a Blues Junior, and he had a single multi-effects pedal.
So if this were my situation, I would be like, I would be trying to be the complete paradox of what the other guy was doing. I would go down to a fly rig, like the Tech 21 fly rig, nothing else. Fly rig, cable, PA system.
I have thought about that. I have thought about that.
Just to do it, just to tick this guy off. Like, what? How are you doing that?
That was in my Flex Tone game. So I had my Flex Tone, right?
Yeah.
I had my Flex Tone 3. He had Randy or Reggie, who's God bless his soul, he's gone now. Had a early Boss multi-effects pedal, like their second generation pedal, I want to say. So it was like an ME5 or whatever they call it.
Right. The one that preceded the ME50.
Right. And that was it. And he played.
Actually, that guy was really good too.
He was one of those guys. He had one guitar. He owned one guitar, and he owned a couple, I guess, at home. But he had
only ever used the one. Right.
That's right. That's pretty much the one he used. You could tell it was all worn. It was one of the first made in Mexico Strats. He'd bring to every gig, and he had that one pedal and he had that one amp, and that amp was beat to hell. But that was his thing, and that's the thing. You can be the other guy. He went on. He's on a bunch of different video games and stuff like that. He does television and video games and stuff like that now. Very very prominent musician. He was an awesome musician. There's no question that he was an excellent musician. And what's funny is he's the guy now. When I look at him online. He's got an Axe Effects, a Kemper, and a Helix. Yeah. He can't just have one. He's got to have them all.
And the stupid part about it is those products are full of overlap. I wanted to have this conversation, but we'll start and we'll see if it goes in the next episode. But because I'm wanting to wrap up. But
yeah, because we got to go watch Game of Thrones, folks.
Oh yeah.
It's very important. Is Cersei going to die tonight? Who knows?
All right. So
is Clegane Bowl going to happen? Who knows?
Hey, you should see the Vegas odds on Clegane Bowl before you watch.
Oh my God, really? Are there Vegas odds?
Like 1,000 to 1. That both Cleganes they both Cleganes walk away. No, it's 1,000,000 to 1. Yeah, that's the odds are nuts. I saw it on. It was like on Men's Health or something. I just Googled it. Maybe I got it open to you. But anyway, what I started to say was like, look at how much overlap is in these modelers, right? Like every modeler I've ever touched had a Marshall 1968 59 SLP. All of them have a deluxe reverb. All of them have a Fender Twin. All of it, it's like at some point, when you have like a Kemper, a Helix, and an Axe Effects, you're getting the same crap. Okay, it may sound slightly different, but it's the same crap. So when you tell me that, I just kind of shake my head and I'm like, that's just so you say you can. Like, so when you get the gig and the guy asks, do you have an Axe Effects? Yeah, I got one. Yeah, actually, I would really prefer if you have a Helix. I have a Helix too. How about a Kemper? You got a Kemper? Yes.
Exactly. The thing is, so I'm trying to decide because I think next year I'm either going to go full on Helix or full on Kemper. That's one of the two. But those are two different things. I don't lie to myself and go, those are the same thing. They're not the same thing.
I got a Helix right here on the floor right next to me, and I might be willing to part with it soon.
I know. And I think about it
because I've been.
Here's the guy. Oh, I got this Helix, but I really want the Axe Effects. I mean, it's like,
well, so I don't know. So like, I'm looking at the cheap Axe Effects that just got announced. The 8x24 replacement for the AX8. Really? The only thing I don't like about it is some people are saying that it's only going to run 1 amp. Oh. And if it only runs 1 amp, not like it'll have models in it, but I mean, it's only going to run one model at a time.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of a deal breaker for me. But it's not really that much. Like, honestly, the majority of the time I'm using the Helix is 1 amp model. So it may not be that big a deal for me. If the modeling is good, and there are a lot of professional features that are in Axe Effects that are not in Helix. Like, for example, input-output monitoring. It's a big part. Being able to see your compression curves, your EQ curves, and stuff as a graphical representation in the display. Like, they're not using as far as I know, there's no graphics processing unit inside the Helix, or if there is, it's very rudimentary. Because if they had input-output monitoring on the Helix, I'd be like 100% happier. That's something that they should add, and if they can. But actually, the tuner has a reasonable refresh rate. Why can't they show us input-output levels? Why can't they show us EQ curves? Like, instead, we're just left to kind of fumble around and hope that you have the X effect or the HX effects, which is even worse because you've got the little bitty display. But on the big guy, like when you go to adjust your parametric EQ, it's all sliders. It doesn't make any sense. That's not how you adjust a parametric EQ.
No, it's not. It's this. You know, with the HX specs, I never use.
You're doing everything in. So you get the sliders. So when you do a parametric EQ, right, it's these sliders that go all the way across the screen. And the other thing is, it's impossible to drag things precisely. It is impossible.
Oh, that's why I use the software, because I can just.
With the software, you have to double click and then type in the number to get what you want, because otherwise, it's just it's painful. Like, oh no, not 7.7. Like,
I want 7.7.
7.7, right?
I have to type it.
And then they should provide quick entry for the keyboard. Like, I should be able to just hit the arrow keys and go through all the parameters and just set them as I go.
Yep.
Like this crap of like having to click on it and then wait for the cursor to appear and then type it in. Like, it's just it's infuriating.
It's a pain in the rump.
Give me a parametric EQ that functions like a parametric EQ in an application where you're dragging dots around. Like, that's easy. I know, obviously, real parametric EQ is knobs, right? But to do it like in a modern DAW way would be so much better. And to see the actual frequency curve of what you're adjusting. Oh, who'd have thought, right?
That's what I can't understand why you wouldn't have that.
I don't know. I just wonder if the GPU can't handle it, and that's why. That's
a possibility. Yeah.
So with that, with that revelation, it is time for Clegane Bowl. I have been David.
I have been Jim.
And tonight we have been the Practical Guitarists who also watch Game of Thrones.
Go Hound.
Yeah, go Hound.